good to go?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talk to Danielle podcast. I am your host, Danielle C. Baker. And before we get started, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. And of course, this is season 3. So I do invite you to have a look at the previous 2 seasons. Might be some topics there that may resonate more with your reality now. So go ahead and check that out. Today, I have a great guest coming on. I'm really excited to have him on because we've had conversations before the recording and it just flows. So when you're just in your element, it's wonderful. So I have the great Todd Sarner with me today.
Wow.
Yes, the great Todd Sarner. Why not? You're awesome.
I'm going to
So
insist that everybody introduced me that way from now
you
on.
should. Yeah, you should. I
Yes.
agree.
My
I'll
fiance will be thrilled. Say, hey.
she'll be like, great. Now what has she done? So I'll put the spotlight on you, Todd, and explain to us, how you got to where you are today, and then we'll fall into the topic of transformative parenting.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I try to keep the bio parts short.
Yes.
I actually had a client tell me, a client told me like a week ago, she said, I listened to you on that podcast and that podcast. I'm all great. What do you think? She said, don't talk about yourself. Nobody. um, but yeah, I wear a couple main hats these days when it comes to what I do for a living. And so my great passion, the thing that I originally started with was parent coaching.
Mm,
And when I started doing that 22 years ago, there weren't a lot of us doing it. Now you hear a lot of people saying they're a
yeah.
parent coach, and great. There's a lot of people that could use some assistance out there, but not everybody understands what it is. For me, I kind of work with people who come to me with all the typical problems that all of your audience has, and a lot of times they come to me and they think they're the only ones having the problems. But people come to me and they say things like, I'm really trying to be the best mom I can. I'm trying to be the best parent I can, but my kids just aren't listening. They won't do what I want. They're fighting with each other, and I end up yelling. And then me and my husband are fighting with each other because he thinks there should be more discipline, and I think they need more connection. And then we fight, and it affects our marriage, and we don't have. And I'm really worried I'm screwing up my kids. And so on the parent coaching end, I kind of walk people through a process that lasts a few months where it's kind of a mixture of education and coaching and processing where and what I mean by process is it's not just a class where I'm downloading information. It's sharing information about child development and behavior, but then doing troubleshooting and trying things out, so we can get it into a place where they feel more lined up, they feel more confident as a parent by the end of those 3 months. And then I don't usually explain it that much at first, but
That's
then the
okay.
other hat that I wear is couples counseling, and I only do marriage counseling and couples counseling for parents because it's just part of the same mission. I don't think kids need to have a perfect experience. We can talk about all sorts of subtleties about things out there, different parenting styles and debates. I don't think they need to have a perfect experience, but I want to help kids have a better experience, that they get more of what they need to be a healthy, happy person that has good relationships and can grow into their greatest potential. And so if
Mhm.
I can partner up with their parents and help give them the support that they need, because most of us didn't get the knowledge we needed, and thank
Yeah.
goodness for things you're doing out there in the world, Danielle, like with the different shows and different education you do, but also help them with their marriage because obviously kids are looking at that and they're learning from that, and it's just two different ways of approaching the same issue. Let's help these kids have a more
Yeah.
healthy, happy experience growing up, and
That's what I
most of all, grow into their greatest potential, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate about the work that you do is because you are helping the parents at the core. The children are watching when they're not supposed to be watching or when we don't think they're watching. And we are setting the
They
example
are
for
sure
what
watching. They
Uh,
are watching. Yeah,
yeah, so we're giving them kind of a blueprint or an imprint on what a relationship should look like, even though it might not be perfect. And I think this is what I found really interesting, of the fact that you're working on couples counseling, but for parents, because aside from finances, usually it's the parenting that really does create a
for
bit more
sure.
friction. The way we were brought up, we want to bring that into it, but now we have another person who was brought up a different way, that so to find that balance, I think is so important. And I really
Yeah,
do.
and it really ends up being that couples polarize is how I describe
Yes.
it. Is one of them is more usually the mom voice that I said before. Hey, they need more of our attention, and we're not giving them like kind of something they need. And I think that's what's happening. And then the other parent, usually, but not always the father, saying, but they need more discipline and they need more boundaries. And the thing is, and I say this every day, they're both right.
Yeah.
But because one of them doesn't feel like you're listening to me about the kids need more connection, and the other one feels like you're not listening to me about the kids need some structure and discipline, they end up just polarizing and getting like people do in politics, right? They get more and more entrenched in their position,
Yeah.
and the kids need both, but they need it a certain way and in a certain order. And so the way I teach is attachment first.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of talk about attachment out there, and there's gentle parenting and all sorts of
Always.
things that on the opposite end of the spectrum, F around and find out parenting being a really popular thing out there in social media now. But attachment first just means look, for all of us, the most important thing is our relationships.
Yeah.
If you and I, Danielle, are friends, or you and I are spouses, or we're parent child, the number one thing is, do I feel connected to you? Do I feel like if we're friends, do I feel like you get me? Do you understand my experience?
Yeah.
Are we on the same team? And if that's not there, anything I try to do is going to be like building on sand. And
Yeah.
there's so many nuances to that we could fill 5 hours with. But like the younger a child is, or the more sensitive they are, or they're a teenager, like we both know about that they have a lot of hormones and different things going on.
Yeah.
Being connected and being in relationship isn't just, we can't take it for granted. It's not always active, right? And so
Yeah.
we need to learn the things that we do to make it feel like we are more connected more often. But then on the back end, as I call it, we do need to have consequences, which is
Hmm.
not punishment. It's just teaching of cause and effect to a child. So they understand that when I do this or don't do this, this happens. That is not me punishing you unless I yell and scream and take away things that have nothing to do with what you did.
You're right.
It's just letting it happen. Or sometimes when you're irritable and pokey and,
Yeah.
I don't want I don't want that for dinner. I might need to set a limit with you, but
Yeah.
again, that doesn't need to be yelling and screaming and taking away your favorite thing. It's just saying no to you, being compassionate, but saying no and kind of holding the line until you can just kind of work out what you're feeling and feel it and get it out. But it's about a balance in parenting. It's attachment first, because without that, nothing else works. I can't tell you
Exactly.
to do something if you don't think I care. If
Yeah.
you don't feel connected to me, I have no influence over you. So that has to be there, and we can't take it for granted, but then we back it up with also having some boundaries and things that are not punishment. They're just something that helps make a kid feel safe and kind of steers them in the right direction that's good for them. So
Yeah.
that's the whole enchilada, as we say here in California.
Right. And that those are great points, because I know we've talked before about the three realms that you have in the
Mm.
attachment-based process. And one of them, that attachment is so important from day one, to be able to say, I am the parent, says, um, and that's something that's very important, especially if you go into the gentle parenting. Still needs to be that line where we're not best friends here. I need to keep you
Yeah,
alive, and I need to make you a functional human being and prepare you
yeah,
for what's waiting out there. So those consequences are important, because they're not always going to get their way when they're grown. And if they
yeah,
want to build healthy relationships, they need to be able to say, okay, no, these are my own boundaries, but I also have to respect somebody else's values and
Yeah, for
goals.
sure. And so many of us go out into the world not really knowing that very well. You know,
Exactly.
I didn't understand all those things. I had to find out the hard way, through a lot of trial and error and relationships that didn't work and things like that. And a
Yeah.
lot of people who are therapists, that's why they go into it is they didn't get the right modeling, or they didn't get exactly the map, and so they try to learn, and then they try to show other people, and that's what
That's
a
it.
lot of us in this field do. But yeah, Dr. Neufeld, your fellow countryman in Canadian developmental and
Yeah.
clinical psychologist, who was my mentor, calls it alpha, being alpha.
Hmm.
And that word has been
Overused.
misused
Yeah.
and mischaracterized to be like, alpha male who's,
Hmm.
corporate guy. But his version that he taught me when I was a young father and a student of his, and was in his first group of interns that he took on in like 2004, I think it was 2005. Oh, I'm old, Danielle.
No,
Is
you're
it's more of this like Papa Bear energy, Mama Bear energy, that you're not best friends, but it doesn't mean you're a dictator. It doesn't mean you're like do as I say, you know,
yeah.
authoritarian parent. It's more authoritative. It's more
Yeah.
I'm your best bet. I don't know everything. I'm not perfect, but I know more than you because I'm an adult and I have the ability to kind of steer this ship. And I'm steering the ship, and that way you can be a passenger and be a kid and learn and grow and play and make mistakes, but that I'm kind of holding a container for you while
Yeah.
you do that. And you have plenty of time in life, child, that you can be in charge of things. you know you can
Yeah.
have the burden of adulthood, in lots of ways, and work and be married and have to figure out these things, be a parent. But right now, that's not your job. Your job is to be a kid, and there's
That's
nothing
it.
wrong with that. And I'm going to let you because I've got the wheel. And that's more the alpha kind of that I learned, and that everything I do with parents is trying to help them be that. you
Right.
know, there's all sorts of
Yeah.
to-dos and things along the way. How do you deal with resistance and defiance? How do you deal with sibling rivalry? And yeah, let's talk about those things. But the main thing is, and Neufeld said this so beautifully, parenting is more about who you are to your child rather than what you do. And if you understand who you're supposed to be, the what to do's kind of work themselves out more.
Yeah, and it also helps when things do get a little chaotic. Then you know where your role, you know where your place is, and children
Yes.
just need the kids just need a reminder of what the roles are, because of course they're going to
Yeah.
test the limits. They're
I'm
going to
and my job
expand.
is not to make you happy. My job
Yeah,
is not to be your best friend. My job is to take care of you,
that's it.
right?
Keep you alive.
And
Yeah.
hopefully I do that kindly most of the time. Hopefully
Mhm.
I understand your needs, and you feel like I get you, and those are all things that I strive for. But my main job as your parent is to take care of you. And
Mm.
so when you're losing your mind about you want ice cream for dinner, it would make you happy if I gave you ice cream, but it wouldn't be taking care of you. You'd be hungry, you'd spike your blood sugar, you wouldn't sleep well, maybe, whatever. My
Mhm.
job is to give you a good, healthy meal, whether that's literal or metaphorical,
Right.
making sure you feel connected and safe, and that things are okay
Yeah.
in your world. Yeah.
Long term as well. See, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not just on a in the moment gratification. So I think it's great. Uh, can you talk, as we had a chance to talk about this as well off camera, was how kids are meant to grow and mature, as you kind of touched on it a little bit on, but how do you present that to your clients, or when you do talk about it, just really, um, how can I say, we were talking about consequences, and we do have to, children do without it being punishment, but those are part of the growing process, the part of learning. emotional
Sure.
regulation and that, but that they have a certain way that they need to mature, and how we can guide them through that.
I was, I'll bring up Neufeld again because even though I've been doing this a long time and it's been a long time since I've been his student, a lot of his work was really the foundation of what I did and I've done for the last couple decades. But one of the most influential things on me, besides some of those foundational principles of alpha, one of the most influential is he would always talk about the three different ways that children mature.
Mm,
And I usually teach this to people like in the second week of working with them. And he always made a point that it wasn't really helpful to say a kid was mature or not, because that wasn't really telling you anything. And kind
yeah.
of by definition, they're not mature. Like if somebody says like a 6-year old is very mature, I'm like, no, they're not.
No.
Like they might be acting that way sometimes because that's just how they're handling their world. And maybe their temperament's a little different than the next kid who doesn't look that way as much.
Yeah.
But he made a point of there's like three different realms that we look for, like developmentally, like how's a kid doing in this realm?
Mhm.
And just briefly, and you can find it in his book, Hold On to Your Kids. I still teach it in my stuff, but the first one being integrative energy in no particular order.
Mhm.
When a kid is 3, 4, 5 years old, they literally don't even have the part of their brain hooked up correctly, the
Yeah.
prefrontal cortex, the mixing bowl of the brain, the thing that goes, part of me wants to punch somebody right now because I'm so frustrated. But then that little angel on the shoulder is saying, hey, I probably shouldn't do that. Your kid doesn't even have that
Mhm.
before maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. Jean Piaget called it the 5 to 7 shift, and Waldorf education before that. Rudolf Steiner talked about around 7 years old. That's when we start to really teach a kid because something changes about their brain functioning. That's integrative energy, the ability to
Mhm.
weigh things out, morality and a lot of things that we want to see in our children don't happen just naturally, or they don't happen in absence of those dark forces telling us we want to punch somebody
But
when we're frustrated. They happen when the light forces outweigh them. Does that make
mhm.
sense? That
Yes.
part of me wants to tell a lie, and the other part of me goes, "No, that don't do that. They love you. It's not. You don't want to be the kind of person, right? It's not that there's not that other tension. It's that there's the thing outweighs it, right? And that's not even possible with your kid before they're 5, 6, 7 years old. And even then, it's something that we want to model and we want to demonstrate to them by saying, yeah, part of me doesn't want to go to work today, but the other part of me knows that people are depending on me, including you guys, to bring home some money to pay for everything. And, but also, and when we do that, our kid is watching that and they go, oh, yeah, part of me sometimes doesn't want to do my homework. And then, right? That's integrative energy. We want that to be growing in our kids, but it takes a while. Second one, I would say emergent energy. All kids are born with this. I want to learn, I want to play, I want to explore, I want to see how this thing works. You buy them that really fancy, expensive toy, and they just play with the box because the box is exciting because it's a time machine or it's a tree house, right? Boy, did I do that, especially with my nephews who were born before my son was born. I
Yeah.
would get them the most cool toy that had all these awards for being a great learning
Yeah. Of
thing
course.
and also natural, and they would just play with the box. That's emergent energy. But when
Mhm.
kids have too many screens or they have too academic of an environment or they don't get downtime, my good friend and colleague Kim John Payne, who wrote Simplicity Parenting, talks about this a lot. Sometimes that energy gets like suppressed, and
Yeah.
kids need this energy to be good learners, to not be bored, right? And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that's emergent energy. Yeats had a quote that education is meant to be the lighting of a fire, not the filling of a bucket. And that's
Mm.
emergent energy. And then the third energy may be a little bit more related to what you brought up, Danielle, about boundaries, consequences, things like this. Mostly boundaries is adaptive energy. We
Mhm.
all get frustrated Everybody gets frustrated. You get frustrated. I get frustrated. You and I, after the recording, we can talk about some of our frustration.
Yeah.
But at some point, when you get too full of frustration, you're going to get aggressive.
Mhm.
And for a 4-year-old, that might mean they just punch
Yeah.
or they push over their brother out of frustration.
Hmm.
But as we get older, people can be obviously aggressive, like yelling or hitting people in the most extreme. But a lot of times it's like sarcasm,
Hmm.
which I'm guilty of sometimes. I have to really watch the sarcasm. It can be passive aggressiveness. It can be like other energies. And as human beings, we need to learn how to feel our feelings and process them and get them out. And a lot of times we can most easily understand that by when we have a really good cry.
Hmm.
Like somebody, we lose something, we lose a person, or we lose something in our life that's important to us, and we feel it and we don't want to feel it, and we go through those stages of grief.
Yeah.
And then finally, hopefully, we just accept it and we cry and we release and we get it out and we feel better and we come up with a new idea and something new in our life can happen because we got rid of that energy. Kids need to learn that. They need to get that in their bones and their muscles. And the only way they do that is when I say no to them when they're getting
Yeah.
frustrated, but I do it with that compassion. And over thousands of reps of me saying no, because as a parent, I know that's where you are. You're getting frustrated. You're poking me and bugging me about things. I've used this example recently a couple times, but I had forgotten it for a long time. My son once at like 3 years old was frustrated. He wasn't getting it out. And
Hmm.
I think probably his mother and I were both just tired and we weren't just doing a good job of setting the right limit. And he was just pushing. And he finally just declared, I want to go outside and play with the raccoons in the backyard. And it's like 10 o'clock at night. And they're like, raccoons are little murderous beings.
Of
I
course.
try to love and respect all living
Oh
beings,
no, they're
Danielle.
mean. They're
But
mean.
they steal your cookies when you're
Yeah.
camping and they're mean little guys. They even have like bandit, like I'm
Oh
joking,
yeah.
all
They're
you
vicious. They're vicious little
raccoon
guys.
lovers out there. I'm trying to be funny. But he literally said, I want to go out back and play with the raccoons. And boy, did that bring some steel to my spine. And I was just like, are you kidding? No. I want to. No. I want to. No, you are not going out. So I love you. But no, you are not. No. And then finally he just, but I would, and he cried and cried and cried for like 2 minutes. And then he was like, every parent knows this. You have older, you know. All of a sudden
Yes.
he was like,
Yeah.
I want to go to bed, Daddy. And all of a sudden he's another being
Yeah.
entirely because he had felt it, he got it out, and it got released. And kids need reps and reps and reps of that. And if I'm just being a gentle parent and I'm not ever saying no when I need to, he's not getting that experience. And
That
again,
is
there's
so.
plenty of people out there that do gentle parenting that know what I'm saying. And then there's a debate on the internet where it's like gentle parenting means you never set a limit with your child, and that's just not real.
That's not it at all. No, and it's you bring up a really good point there because if the parent hasn't gone through that exercise and repetition, once the kid does that and a switch like just like that from a full on meltdown to a okay, I'm ready for bed now. That drives you insane as a parent. You're just like, what? No, wait a minute. We need
Yeah,
to talk about this. But no, he's done. Like,
no,
let him go
it's
to sleep.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's the adaptive process that
right.
I learn in my body. Kind of, I think of it that way now. I know in my body that if a bad thing happens,
Hmm.
that sucks. Bad things can happen that I won't be happy about. But I kind of know in my body at this time of life, being an old guy now and having a lot of experiences of heartbreak and loss and things that we all experience in our life, I kind of have the knowing in my body that I can get through this. It's
Yeah.
okay. I can feel it. I can cry if I need to cry, and Boys have been getting the message for a long time. Boys don't cry, so that affects their adaptive process. Women are more and more getting that message. Come on, you can't be that way. Don't be emotional. You have to be like a man if you want to get right. And we get all these
Yeah.
social cultural messages, but they can get in the way of us becoming adaptive human beings. And I work with a lot of people. I work with whoever I comes to me and the message appeals to them. But a lot of the people that I've worked with are kind of well-to-do. They're doing well for themselves in life. Mill Valley, California is where I got my start, which is a lot of people in the tech industry in San
Yeah.
Francisco live there, and it's a really beautiful area just north of San Francisco. And I worry about a lot of these kids because although they do have a lot in life and they do have access to good schools and they have access to healthcare and things that a lot of kids don't have. So,
Yeah.
you could feel non unsympathetic, but a lot of these kids are going off into the world without a sense of people saying no to them, you
Right.
know, and they're not adaptive. And so a lot of them are failing school or
Yeah.
um, because they didn't learn to have the little failures along the way. And we don't have to go around and like, I'm going to make my kid fail today.
Right. You
You
don't want to
know,
set them
because
up for it, but they do need to
sometimes
experience it.
parents think I'm saying that, like, hey,
Yeah.
go really frustrate your kid, and it's
Sabotage them. Yeah.
no, it's more like if you want your kid to be adaptive, it's more that you're just looking for the things that are frustrating them anyway, and
Yeah.
you're not trying to make them all better. You're not trying to avoid them. You're not trying to bribe them to not feel it. You're finding your moments where, okay, I'm going to help you feel this right now, and I'm going to say no, but I'm also going to try to be loving and empathetic to your experience. Because if I'm just tough, you're going to feel like I'm just a jerk and I don't care.
Yeah.
So you find that balance. And I find that a lot of adults do this with their friends, you know?
Hmm.
Like think of the person, everybody in the audience, you, Danielle, like think of the person in your life that you love the most, that you have an easy relationship with, right? Because some of you are like, my 19-year-old driving me crazy right now,
Yeah.
right? But that adult relationship that you just are like best friend kind of energy, whether it's your sister or whatever, wouldn't you tell them the truth, but try to
Yeah.
do it with compassion if they weren't accepting something in their life, right?
That's right.
The relationship was a total and utter failure and he treated me awfully, but I think I'll go back to him. Honey,
Funny.
no, it's over. No, it's
Yeah.
no, right? And that's what we would do as adults with the people that we love the most. Why wouldn't we do that with our kids, you know?
That's right.
So that is a super long answer, as I'm prone to, Danielle, to your question about how kids grow. But it's not just this black and white thing of a kid is mature or not. It's like these three different things are operating in them over time. And I'm
Yeah.
just trying to tend to these three things. I want
Yeah.
most of all that they have a secure base, meaning they feel like when they're sad or they're scared or they're tired or they're overwhelmed or they're feeling they're not enough, I want them to feel like, no, that's not true. I'm here. Even if you mess up, I love you. Even if you feel too
Good.
much, you're not. And over time, I want them to have that knowing of they can find me.
Hmm.
If they're feeling lost or they're feeling overwhelmed or they're feeling disconnected, I want as a parent that you can find me, you know?
Yeah.
And that creates a secure attachment. But from the secure attachment, as Neufeld said, those are the roots, and then from the roots grow the tree of the maturity.
And it's important to have that explained, I think, as a parent, because we weren't taught this either growing up. It
No,
was more like do as I say and because I said so. So you don't have that reasoning. So when you are reacting, when you're in reactive mode with your child, again, we were talking at the beginning of setting the example is by having that approach, what you were saying, where I'm gonna have to say no, but this is why, and I'm gonna hold that space for you to go through all these emotions, and then we'll figure it out. But I think it's so important for parents to know those stages as well so that they can start
oh, it
working on
is.
themselves. It's
And
so
if
important.
I'm talking to a parent, I have my group coaching thing that I do with like a group of people, but then sometimes I still work with individuals. And sometimes it's marriage and sometimes it's parenting. So I can go from one appointment right before lunch and it's about how to hold space better for your kid. You
Yeah.
know, okay, your kid's having meltdowns. Okay, reacting to that and threatening and leveraging and taking things that's not working. Let's figure out a different approach to this. But then I'll talk after lunch to a couple and I'm telling one of them, maybe the husband, hey, you have to hold space a little bit differently with your wife's feelings because you're telling, like I always joke about this. I say this a lot, but telling a person that you love, including your wife, to calm down has never worked in the history of ever. I defy you to find a culture, a time, a space, right? And people do it with their kids, they do it with their
Yeah.
partners, and it's just more stereotypical that a man says it to his wife. But it's like a lot of times that is the partners or the parents' inability to hold space because
Hmm.
I'm tired, I'm stressed, I had a bad day. It has nothing to do with you, kid. You're just having a mini meltdown because I haven't set a limit with you in 3 days. And so you're a little irritable
Yeah.
and you're pushing. And so if I have a meltdown to match your meltdown, we're not getting anywhere. I have to
No.
be able to hold space a little bit and take a breath and go, this is not personal. It's like one of the best things that parents and
Yes.
sometimes spouses could ever just remind themselves. Your kid's thing right now is not personal. It is probably a perfectly logical culmination of what's going on in their life right now and what's
Yeah.
going on around them. And our job is to like set a limit if I need to and go, hey, no, 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 we don't scream in the car. I love you. I want to hear what you have to say, but we don't scream in the car. You cannot hit your brother. You cannot damage property. But I'm here to hear you, and I'm gonna stay here until. And sometimes saying to a kid, "Okay, looks like you're gonna have a meltdown. Do it. Get it out.
Yeah.
Get it all out. Go." A lot of times, a kid
Yeah.
immediately goes, "Well, I don't want
Well,
to now."
I don't want to. That's right. But at least you gave it a name. So now the child can recognize that the signs
Right.
of,
And
oh, okay,
sometimes
that's,
it's because they feel like we can't handle it that they keep going with
yep,
it because they're afraid we can't handle it. And so if we go, okay, I can handle it. It seems like it's inevitable. Just go.
go
Lose
for it.
your mind. Go. You know what? Tell me what an awful parent I am. I go. Get it out.
Yeah.
Well, you are. I know I am. I can be awful. You're not perfect. I know. I really am not. You teach other people how to be a parent, and you're not perfect. You're right. I know
Yeah.
that. Uh,
Yeah.
okay, what's for dinner? You
Yeah.
know?
And that's
And
all
now
it
we're
is.
fine. But it's just the
Yeah.
difference of holding a little space instead of reacting.
Yeah. Oh no, that's amazing. I could talk to you about this all day, but you did mention some very quickly before we wrap up. I wanted to ask because you did mention it briefly about those screen times. And I love your take on the effect it has on that connection and the maturity as well. When because it's such a hot topic, especially here in Canada right now with this screen time, not just for kids, but for adults. Adults have just as much problems with their screen time as their kids, but
Yeah.
the effect that that has on the connection, on that attachment, and the maturity as well, the kind of we're
Yeah.
cutting all of that.
I really try as hard as I can to be just common sense, practical about screens and their effect on kids.
Hmm.
I do not feel great when I see kids just constantly glued to screens 24/7, and I know that's having an effect.
Yeah.
Um, the book, Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, that came out last year, was a bestseller all over the world, and he was all over the place talking about the actual data we have
Hmm.
about anxiety and depression levels skyrocketing
Yeah.
with the adoption of kids of smartphones and social
Yeah.
media. On the other hand, I get really annoyed, and I don't think it's helpful when people get up on a soapbox and yell and scream at parents who are just struggling because a lot of us are like, I don't know what else to do, or I'm a single
Yeah.
parent, and sometimes I gotta put them in front of a thing because or every
Yeah.
single person in their class is on screens all the time. What am I supposed to do? Or I send them over to my parents' house, and my parents are 60 and 65, and they don't know how to keep up with my 5-year-old, so they put them like, guys,
Yeah.
I get all that, and I'm annoyed when people get too soapboxy about it. But
Mhm.
there are some just very real things that we need to keep in mind. Is number one, when it comes to secure attachment, oh gosh, Danielle, I could talk about this for 2 hours. So I just need to figure out how to say it in a couple minutes.
We
But
could do another episode just for that.
yeah, we'll do it sometime. But like I tell some people sometimes, like I'll walk into my favorite pub every once in a while, a beer pub that's walking distance from here that I've been going to on and off for 15 years. And I'll walk in and I'm not telling you I'm above it, but I'll look up and down the bar and every single adult is on their phone. And you kind
Yeah,
of like, why are we doing this? Like, why wouldn't we just have a beer at home? You know? So the
yeah,
the thing is attachment is the way I feel like describing it most right now, to try to get to the heart of it, is attachment is vulnerable. For
mhm,
us to connect as human beings and to do so in a meaningful way is scary. And a lot of the way to think about your kids' experiences, they want to connect to you more than anything else. I can't even describe to you how deeply, emotionally, psychologically, and at a cellular level, your children are wired to connect to you. It is their deepest need. It is deeper than psychological and emotional. It is survival. It's that deep. It's a
yeah,
nervous system deep. Even when they act like shut up, mom,
yeah,
when they're 15 years old, okay?
yeah,
Underneath, that's what the instinct is. But to want to come home and be able to be a messy teenager or a 5-year-old who doesn't know what they're doing and to expect you to be able to be there for them in the way they need perfectly, it's very vulnerable. Just
yeah,
like for an adult, if I said to somebody for the first time, I love you, that is extremely vulnerable because what might they say or not
right.
say, right? And
Yeah,
so, even though I kind of know you feel the same way about me, to say it out loud or to say, will you marry me, comes with, you might say no. You might
yeah,
change your mind. So, I'm just trying to, in a nut, like, this is the human experience. To connect with human beings is vulnerable
mhm,
and it's scary. And so if I can pick up my phone or I can go onto social media, I saw this in the early stages where I was working with kids in group homes and I would take them to the library when MySpace was big. I know
mhm.
I'm dating myself here, carbon dating myself, but they all of a sudden the group home kids I was working with were like, I want to go to the library. And I would go, okay, that's good. And we'd
Yeah.
get there, and they just wanted to be on the computer because they had 3,000 friends on MySpace, or at
Oh
least
my
that's what they
goodness.
were telling themselves. So, in a very long winded way, Danielle, what I'm just trying to say is technology can be a non vulnerable attachment that kids put their energy into rather than where it's supposed to be. So we just
Mhm.
have to keep an eye on that. We want to see first that kids have good, strong connections and that they can come to us and that they lean on people. And then if they want to kind of use technology here and there, fine, but they have that base, which takes a long time. And
Yeah,
then I am being long winded, but when it comes to the maturities, if I need to try something and I might fail, talking about that adaptive process, for instance,
yeah,
well, guess what? I don't have to try in the real world and fail. I'll go here and I'll play this thing and I'll hit reset every time I fail. Or I can hide behind something to make a comment. You know what I mean? And I'm
yeah,
not doing the laboratory of human interaction and kind of falling short and adapting and failing when it comes to adaptation. But then when it comes to, let's just pick one more, emergent energy, if I'm
mhm,
just looking at other people's creativity, I might occasionally be inspired, but how much of my time where I could be learning and exploring and playing and being creative and doing things am I not doing because I'm on this, right?
exactly.
And so again, that is not a soapboxy, you are ruining your, right? It's just, hey guys, keep that in mind. Because if you're frustrated with your kid not adapting right now,
Mm,
and they're also on their phone all the time or on video games and social media, that probably has something to do with it. If you're okay with that and trying to balance that and get over it someday kind of thing, okay, but understand it's part of it. Or if you're
Yeah.
like, my kid doesn't want to talk to me, and the big thing now, Danielle, and I've been working on a book for years. I'm not here to promote it. It's not even all the way done yet. It's almost done. But the angle that made me finish it was all the calls I'm getting, including from reporters. Right now it's with teenagers, but I'm telling you, every time this happens, it gets younger.
It gets
Is
younger.
all the parents concerned because kids are going to AI to get advice,
Yeah.
to get friendship? Like
Yeah.
there was a movie in
Yes.
2013 called She with
Yes.
Joaquin Phoenix about Joaquin Phoenix falling in love with an operating system.
Yeah.
And now that's happening. I think Spike Jonze was the director, but those things are happening. And so that's my very long answer to how does technology and screens fit in with the secure base and with the maturity processes? It can get in the way of both. And because it's easier for me to pick up my phone or to ask
Hmm.
ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is going to tell me
What
what
you
I
want to
want to
hear.
hear or what
Yeah.
it thinks I want to hear. And human beings aren't going to do that. Again, looping back to what would you say to a good friend who is making bad choices? I love that. I tied it together. Did you see
Yeah. I
that?
love it. You just right in the end
Is
there. That's
like
awesome.
if I go to ChatGPT, and again, I use those tools. I use them
Yeah.
for some things. I do, and they can be wonderful. But if I go to my mom to say, Mom, I'm really worried about this thing and what should I do? There's this girl at school who's bullying me and whatever. And I'm afraid my mom's going to judge me or my dad's going to judge me or they don't have time for me or whatever. And I go to ChatGPT. Now I'm going for the non-vulnerable attachment rather
Yeah.
than the one that nourishes me and that helps me, you know?
And the one that's looking out for you at the same time. So the consequences are different. Well, it
Yeah.
is, we could do a whole episode on that. And
I did it
I,
make sense? Did I make a coherent point in there?
absolutely. And you
Okay,
even
good.
looped it, you brought it all together. That was
Oh,
awesome.
that was an accident, but I'm glad I did.
You
I'll,
did it
I'll
all.
tell you. No, it was on purpose. Can you edit
Of
it?
course,
That was
because
on purpose. Did you see how masterful I was
you
there?
are the great Todd
I
Sarner. Come
the
on.
So you're looping it back now.
That's it. Come on now. How awesome is that? Now, just to wrap it up really quickly, how can people reach you or, if they want to know more about your approach and your process, is there, I'll put that information.
The easiest way, and I finally actually redid my website after years because I don't, I don't think of my website as a way to get business or whatever. I just mostly people come to me from referrals and seeing me out there.
Right.
But finally somebody convinced me to redo my website, www.transformativeparenting.com.
Perfect.
That has our socials. I put out an article every Monday that I try to keep it fresh to things that are happening now and things people are asking me. And if I pointed out one more thing that's a good resource, it's the YouTube channel. It's been a labor of love. I've put
Yes.
out 100 different videos, 20 probably long ones or 30. I started it actually when I was living in Osaka, Japan for a half a year, and I
Yeah.
just found myself with afternoons free sometimes because I my clients were asleep and my friends were asleep back home. And so I started filming videos based on just the things. So transformative parenting with Todd, give it a like, give it a subscribe. I don't do my own commercials on it or anything. And yeah,
That's awesome.
that's the way to check it out. There's a master class on our website that when people are interested in working with us, there's like a 20-minute thing there that kind of just tells you more about what we do, but lots and lots of free resources there too.
That's great. I'm going to put that in the description so our listeners can have a look at that and follow you as well. I want to thank you so much. Like I said, I could talk to you all day about this, but we'll wrap it up. Thank you
I
so much
could
for
too.
sharing all that. Yeah,
Thank you
well,
for doing what you do. I think it's great. I've listened to a couple of your shows and I see all you're doing with the television stuff and I just think we just need more and more people out there trying to give a positive message to parents and
yes,
let them know they're not alone and let them know there's resources. And everybody out there who's doing it, I love seeing what you're doing and I love your message. So thank you for having
thank
me on
you.
and letting me
Thank
talk to your folks.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. And we'll definitely have you on. We have so much more we could talk about. So thank you again. And for everybody watching and listening, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to whichever channel you're listening or watching from. Don't forget to go check out Todd's website and his YouTube channel. I'll put all the information in the description. And until next time, stay safe, stay awesome, and we'll talk soon.